State Senator J.B. Jennings from Maryland with us on the program. Senator, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. We have talked about this story out of the Baltimore area, Park Elementary School. Josh Welch, second grader, and I have to say I've got two kids in second grade myself. He was suspended for 2 days because he was eating a Pop-Tart. The teacher thought it looked like a gun shape. He said he was trying to bite it to make it look like a mountain. Who cares if it's a gun, a lion, a mountain, a Sputnik? I don't care. The kid got suspended for 2 days when there was clearly no intent for him to do anything other than have a snack. What is wrong with our schools these days, Senator?
That's the issue. That's what this bill's trying to address. It's a zero tolerance policy that's been pushed down from some of the school boards, that children aren't allowed to do anything, and administrators have no jurisdiction on this. They just automatically suspend these children. And you had a story of a kid on the Eastern Shore of Maryland who made his fingers into the shape of a gun. He got suspended. You had the kid that you just told about with the Pop-Tart got suspended. But there's cases all over this country where these kids are getting suspended for doing this kind of stuff, and it's not doing it. They're kids being kids. And I think it's ridiculous that they're getting suspended. And what this bill does, it just says, look, if they're doing this stuff, and don't suspend them. If it's disrupting or being a disrupt. I'm sorry, I'm standing here outside my committee room. Just came out. We're actually in committee here in the Senate. If it's a disruption in class, then you can have a teacher-parent conference, but don't suspend the kid. I mean, it's ridiculous that they're doing that. Now, if it's being done on a threat level, then okay, let's take it to the next step.
Right.
On a violent level. But it's ridiculous that it's gotten to this point, I think. And it's gotten a lot of press, and it's sad that it's gotten there. And I don't think it should be legislation. I don't think we should be having to legislate this. The school board should be stepping up and saying, hey, this isn't right. But they're not. It's a vacuum of intelligence there on this issue.
Is it a vacuum of intelligence, or is it? I'm curious, Senator. Is there also an attitude among some school boards to pass the buck up to the state level of, well, our hands are tied, and everybody wants to avoid taking responsibility for these things. I'm sure the principal says, well, it's the district's position, and the district says, well, it's the school board, and the school board says, well, the state has these laws. And so maybe the buck does ultimately stop with legislators, as sad as it is. I'm curious, what type of reaction has your bill received from your colleagues?
Well, several have talked to me about it, saying they agree it's gotten out of hand, the way the kids are being disciplined like this. That, we all agree, when we were in school, you got suspended when you were physically fighting with each other, you were caught hooking class, you were caught cheating. Those were the suspendable offenses. Stuff like this, you got detention. When you were being a nuisance in class. It never got to this kind of level on this kind of stuff. And I can tell you I've had probably about 6 or 7 of them within my committee alone who've talked to me and said they kind of agree. And the bill would come to my committee that we need to address this issue, that we were wishing the state board or even the local boards of education would step up and say, okay, let's reevaluate it, but they're not doing anything. And, I'm not somebody who does a knee-jerk reaction and jumps right on a piece of legislation and when they see it in the news. But this one, I had enough people calling me, and it got to the point where I said, enough's enough. Let's do something. So we put it in, and look at the discussion it started. It's great because now people are talking about it. Hopefully something changes at this point.
I hope so as well. And I hope it's not just in Maryland because, as you say, these stories are happening all around the country. I'm curious as well, Senator, while I've got you here, and I know you've got to get back to your committee, but before we let you go, a lot of gun owners in Maryland very concerned about Governor O'Malley's proposals, and we saw thousands of them turn out in Annapolis. What's your take on where things stand right now with the gun control battle?
Well, unfortunately, we lost the battle in the Senate. It did pass out of the Senate. We fought very hard. About 2 weeks ago, we finally they were able to pass it out. I mean, at one point, we were on the floor for about 13 and a half hours. We tried for a filibuster, but they were able to get cloture on the vote. Passed the Senate and is in the House. there's no doubt they're going to get the votes.
Right.
At this point, I'm working with several House members on some compromise amendments to make this terrible legislation, at this point, we'll call it bad legislation on some fronts, on some areas of it. But it is, I was at dinner last night with a couple people. We were talking. This bill is not going to do one thing to change any type of violence out there. It's not going to do one thing. And we never dealt with any criminal penalties or anything. It's all about just taking people who have the right to own a gun and making it harder for them to get it with licensing and all of that. It's just ridiculous.
Well, again, Senator, I appreciate your time this afternoon, sir. We'll let you get back to it, but thank you very much for the few minutes, and I hope we can do it again.
Thank you, sir.